Hello, welcome to another episode of Field of Screams. I'm your host, Tyler Singleton. Welcome to the horror harvest of the movie Dog Soldiers. For a horror harvest episode, instead of going over the entire plot of the film, I'm going to give a brief overview of the film, talk a little bit about its background, then we'll summarize the plot, and once we summarize the plot, then we'll talk about the highs and lows of this film, and then there will be some awards at the end, so stick around. Dog Soldiers was created in 2002, not to be confused with Battle Dogs, which is the Asylum low-budget film that was released around the same time. For those who are unfamiliar with Asylum films, usually when a movie's very popular, they will release a very low-budget movie that is titled very similar to the very popular movie in the hopes that someone picks up the wrong movie. I actually fell victim to this in high school. I was part of a double date. I had the duty to pick out the movie at the Red Box. I heard Dog Soldiers was very good, so I was very excited to see it. I went by the Red Box. I saw Battle Dogs, confused it with Dog Soldiers, and we took it home. The movie night wasn't so great. We moved on from Battle Dogs rather quickly. Dog Soldiers was directed by Neil Marshall. The cast, we have Kevin McKidd as Cooper, Sean Pertwee as Sarge, Liam Cunningham as Ryan, Darren Morfitt as Spoon, Chris Robson as Joe, Leslie Simpson as Terry, Emma Cleesby as Megan, and Thomas Lockyer as Bruce. The idea for Dog Soldiers came about when Neil Marshall and his friend Keith Bell were working on a film called Killing Time in 1995. When they were finished with that film, they wanted to make a film of their own. Keith Bell was one of the producers of this film, but of course Neil Marshall was the one who directed it. Jason Statham was actually cast as the lead during production, but he ended up dropping out due to him getting a role for John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars. Probably a decision that he regrets, but I mean, when you get a chance to work with John Carpenter, I guess you gotta take it. Simon Pegg was actually cast to play as Spoon also, but he dropped out because he promised Edgar Wright that Shaun of the Dead would be his first official film. As this film started gathering steam, one of the producers lobbied that this film be called The Night of the Werewolves, but it was shot down by pretty much everyone involved in the film, so that change did not happen. The plot of this film, very early in the beginning of this film, we meet our main character Cooper, who is trying out to be in the special ops team led by Ryan. During this tryout performance, Ryan walks up to Cooper and he tells him he thinks he may be a good fit for his team, and he commands Cooper to shoot one of his dogs. Cooper refuses to. Ryan says, well, you need to be a man of action, not a man of morals. If you're told to do something, you need to do it. It's life or death. Cooper still refuses to shoot the dog. Ryan takes his gun, he shoots the dog, and then he demotes Cooper back to the army. At this point, we fast forward to Cooper and a small squad of British soldiers doing a nighttime training mission in the Scottish Highlands. The 6 troops are performing their mission with blanks in their guns until they stumble upon the Special Ops unit led by Ryan, but they are massacred. The only survivor there is Ryan, so Cooper and Ryan get a nice little reunion. They patch Ryan up, and Ryan's in hysterics, claiming that there was only supposed to be one, and that there was more than one. They don't know what he's talking about quite yet. But then they run into a bunch of werewolves, which they then take the special unit's weapons and they fight them off for the most part. They're in full retreat until they stumble upon a road and they come upon a car and they meet a zoologist named Megan. They quickly get into Megan's car, which is then attacked by werewolves, but they drive away. Megan takes them to her house in the middle of nowhere, and inside that house they have to fight off these werewolves. Now that we've gone over the plot of the film, let's talk about the highs and lows of this film. What makes it great, and what parts aren't so great, what mistakes happen. Let's go ahead and start with the highs of this film. One of the best things about this film are the special effects. You'll notice in Hollywood there's a lot more zombie or vampire films made more than werewolf films. That's because a lot of times the special effects or how to get the design of the werewolf is either rather difficult or it's costly. In this film, the special effects are great. You don't question the werewolves one bit. Transformation scenes when someone goes from human to werewolf are fantastic. Their eyes shift mid scene, their claws grow naturally. It doesn't look cheap at all. Neil Marshall actually hired dancers to be in the werewolf costumes instead of stuntmen to try to have them move around more gracefully. Having the werewolves work in shadows. When they are in light, they are towering over our characters, walking on 2 feet, not on all fours like you see in other movies. The werewolf was a great design for this film. Another high point would be, though this movie is considered an action/horror film, it does not shy away from the carnage at all. They are just brutal in the kills. There's one character who, Sarge, he's disemboweled early on in the film, and he makes it throughout the whole film, but you just see his intestines hanging out and they get stuffed back in. It's very gross. There's even a point to where a dog's tugging at the bandage of the wound. They don't hold back with the blood or gore. It's constant throughout the whole film once it gets rolling. Another thing I like about this film are the characters of the soldiers inside the squad. I guess technically they're called a section in the British military, but in the film they call themselves a squad. In the synopsis they say it's a squad, so we'll just call it a squad for the sake of what the film calls it. The soldiers are pretty developed in this film, with the exception of maybe Bruce, because he gets killed off so early, kind of in the style of Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. He's kind of frantically running around and then he just takes a wrong turn and gets impaled by a branch of a tree. A lot of times in horror films, characters might be fodder or just a body count. You see this in some Halloween films, Friday the 13th. Some characters you really don't get a care for. They're just kind of stumbling, walking around until eventually the killer gets them. With these soldiers, you kind of get a feel for who they are as a person, so you really start to care as you start to lose them as the film goes. The first character I'll talk about is Sarge. He's the hardened veteran that's leading his troops. He tells stories of stuff that he's seen in past battles or wars. He's a very tough character. He gets disemboweled but makes it throughout the whole film. And though he's tough and he's tough speaking, you can still tell he cares about his troops, unlike Ryan, our film's antagonist, who puts down a dog about 4 minutes into the movie. Then we have our character Cooper, who transitions into the leader of the squad as the film goes. He's a very moral character. He doesn't want to sacrifice any lives, very upstanding person. Even when another soldier is bitten or scratched and it runs the risk of putting everyone in danger, he still won't just kill off that soldier just because that's who he is as a person. He's very much the opposite of, again, our film's antagonist, Ryan, who will put down anyone just in terms of saving his own life. And those two square off in the final battle at the end of the film, which is pretty good. Ryan, by that point, is a full-grown werewolf with a sword impaled through his chest. There's a cool scene to where when they're fighting, the werewolf Ryan grabs Cooper and tries to make the sharp end of the sword go into his mouth, and you can hear it grating against his teeth. Oh, it was gross. We have our soldier Joe, who is a little grumpy because he's missing the football game. He's a very likable character as the film gets going. Towards the end of the film, there's a point to where he asks Megan if she caught the score of the football game, and she kind of pauses like, oh, I didn't know there was a game going on. And he kind of makes the comment of, it's not just a game. And then on paper, it seems kind of a silly or funny line, but at that point in the film, you kind of start to feel for him, like, man, this guy just wanted to watch some football, and instead he's inside this house fighting off werewolves about to die. You never see Joe get rattled in this film. There was one scene I really liked. It made me laugh. When they're in the house and they're getting ambushed by these werewolves, there's a werewolf that reaches through the window and grabs a hold of Joe. Joe has a shotgun. He's trying to free himself, and he starts yelling for Cooper. Cooper runs over with the sword and cuts off the werewolf's arm. And when he does, the werewolf kind of goes away for a second, and you just see Joe with the werewolf hand still attached to his shoulder, the amputated hand. And he just kind of glances up and goes, "Cheers." And then he moves on. It's a funny moment. It fits well in character with him. It's not like a Marvel movie where, they'll try to play a scene real serious and the hero will say something dumb like "heads up" and then bonk the enemy in the head, or just a goofy moment like that takes all the suspense out of the film. The next character we have is Spoon. Spoon is very comfortable in combat. He's kind of the manly soldier in the group. There's times in the film to where Cooper's saying, "Hey, we need to shoot as few bullets as possible, try to save some ammo," and then we have Spoon over here just unloading clip after clip at werewolves. He's like, yeah, sure thing, Cooper. I'll save some bullets," and then he just sprays. Before Spoon is dispatched of, he has this really glorious fight with the werewolf. He's literally punching the werewolf, using anything he can, throwing dishes, anything he can get his hands on. And he lasts a really long time against a werewolf. It's not until another werewolf comes and pins him against the wall, and of course he goes out hoping that he gives the werewolf diarrhea. That's just the type of guy that Spoon is. He's a hard-edged guy, not afraid to fight anything. Then we have our character Terry, who is the opposite of Spoon. Terry is very nervous all the time. I mean, it's hard to blame him. When you're getting attacked by werewolves, I'd be a little nervous too. Terry, he's throwing up during this film. He's scared, he's nervous. There's a part to where they're all sitting around the bottom of a cliff, and then a cow drops down right in front of them, which scares them all. But then Terry jumps up and just starts firing his gun at the dead cow. Sarge yells at him and he's like, "Terry, for God's sake, you're firing blanks into a dead cow." The banter of these characters is really enjoyable. I mean, all the characters I just listed off, they're all well acted, and you think they're truly good friends that are in the army together. Some other parts that I liked, when the werewolves are ambushing them, Terry's hammering away at boarding the window. A werewolf reaches through, and then Terry starts beating the werewolf's hand with the hammer as quick as he can. It's almost kind of a comedic moment. Another moment is when Sarge is laying in bed. Cooper and Megan are trying to fix him up. The actor who plays Sarge was actually drunk during this scene, trying to get a little method acting going on. And it gets to a point where Sarge is yelling too much, and he tells Cooper to knock him out. And he goes, "Hit me." So Cooper hits him. And then Sarge flies back up and goes, "What was that? Hit me like a real man." And then Cooper hits him and actually knocks him out. While they were filming that scene, the actor who played Cooper actually hit the actor who played Sarge right in the nose and broke his nose. The director was watching the scene and he saw some blood splatter after he hit him. And the director thought, "Oh, something happened. Like, there wasn't supposed to be blood splatter during this scene." Alright, we listed a lot of highs of this film. Now let's talk about some of the lows. This film had a lot of highs, a lot of things I liked. Some of the lows that I noticed. One of the obvious things that stuck out to me is when they were in the house and it was supposed to be dark out. When you look at the windows, it actually looks like daylight outside. I don't know if that's supposed to be a security light or a security light reflecting fog, but to me it looks just like plain daylight, and I think maybe they were filming during daytime and trying to shade in the house. Whatever it was, it just looked like to me like it was daylight outside, and I found that a bit confusing at first. Another moment that I thought was a low point was when the soldiers first met Megan. Everyone gets into her car. The werewolves approach the car. They get in the window. Clear as day. They're right near the window. They're growling. They're roaring. They're shaking the car. They're getting on top of the car. The car's stuck in the mud. She's trying to get it out. Everyone's yelling. And one of the werewolves even reaches through the roof of the car and starts reaching around, clawing at the soldiers. They finally get free. And Megan turns around and goes, "So what happened?" It's like, are you serious? Did you not just see all that? Do you wonder why there's a hole in the roof of your car? It turns out later in the film that she's one of the werewolves, so I mean, maybe she was trying to slow play it, which I don't know why you would choose that moment after they attacked your car. Or maybe she's wondering why there's werewolves. She's trying to play that route, but I mean, if I'm driving and I pick someone up and I see 5, 6 werewolves and they're tearing up my car, I'm not gonna pause and go, so what just happened, guys? Like, it's pretty clear what happened. You were attacked by werewolves. Which leads me to my next low. When the soldiers finally get to the house and they're talking with Megan, and Cooper asks, what were those things? And she goes, well, they're kind of, and he goes, wolves? And then she goes, well, not quite like wolves. Like, it's like wolves mixed with humans, werewolves. And Cooper goes, you gotta be kidding me. I'm sitting here in disbelief that Cooper doesn't believe that they're werewolves despite being chased by them 2 miles through the forest and surviving the car attack. And then they go downstairs and she tells the rest of the troops the same thing, and they respond like, what? Like, you full moon? Like, they're gonna transform, and they're kind of mocking her. And I'm just like, what? Guys, you just saw 7-foot werewolves standing on 2 legs. Like, if they're on all fours, you could say it was a bear, maybe, or I don't know. But I just don't get how they don't truly believe that they're werewolves. Now, I know there's skeptics out there, you know. Some people believe in aliens, some people think it's hokey, some people don't believe in ghosts. But I promise you, if a 7-foot werewolf standing on 2 feet attacks me, I'm going to be a believer. It's not going to take a whole lot to convince me. I would say another low point of this film is the little subplot between Ryan and Megan. They don't go too much into it. Ryan and Megan have supposedly met before when they had a mission the first time, and Cooper's like, what do you mean the first time? And Ryan goes on this big thing on how he was supposed to capture a werewolf because they only thought there was one out there. And then Megan has a twist of her own that she's a werewolf. Neil Marshall stated in an interview, actually no, it was the DVD, Blu-ray, the commentary, he said that he wasn't a fan of this subplot, so he edited it as much out as possible, but he said there's still some remnants of the little subplot in the movie. He really didn't have much say because the producer really wanted this subplot going. One more criticism I'll point out, I mean, it's not really a low point, I'm kind of happy it happened, but at the end of the film, when Sarge blows up the entire house and Cooper's underneath the house, protected, all boarded up, the house blows to smithereens. There's barely any walls standing. It kills every werewolf, kills everyone upstairs except Cooper. But when Cooper comes out, the dog's still alive, and it walks out with him. I'm glad the dog survived, but part of me was like, well, how did that dog survive that explosion? But I don't know. Everyone loves a dog that lives, and I guess it ties back to the beginning to where he wouldn't kill a dog. So I guess it's a nice wraparound point. But how did that dog survive? And how was that dog not a werewolf? It lived with werewolves. I digress. Now that we covered the highs and lows, let's now get to 4 awards that I want to give out for this movie. 2 of them are positive awards, and 2 of them are negative awards. The first award we'll talk about is the Golden Tractor Award. Yeah, we're keeping it in the theme of Field of Screams. So the Golden Tractor Award goes to the best character of the movie. Now there was 3 I considered for this. I considered Cooper, our hero, I considered Sarge, and I considered Spoon. Spoon actually grew on me a lot as the movie went. I didn't like him at first, but the guy really grew on me. I think I'm going to have to give the Golden Tractor Award to Sarge. Just because he's the hard, tough-talking man, but deep down you knew he liked all of his troops. Even when he was scratched or bitten, he ended his life on a good note. He blew up all the werewolves, took them all out. I mean, you cannot like Sarge. I think he was one of the best characters in the movie, so Sarge gets to ride the Golden Tractor. The next award is the Rusty Tractor, which goes to the worst character in the movie. I would definitely say Ryan, the Special Ops Commander, deserves the Rusty Tractor. I mean, shot a dog for really no reason, just to prove a point that he'd do whatever he wants. And then, as the movies go, he's a great antagonist, but the main characters are trying to figure out how to live. You would think he would want to live, but he's just sitting in his chair going, time's ticking, boys, better make a decision. And he's just trash-talking Cooper the entire movie. It's like, dude, don't you want to get out of this house too? But I digress. He turns into a werewolf and he makes a good villain. But just for that, he's got to ride the rusty tractor. The next award is the Tumbleweed Award, which is the worst kill or lamest kill. And there wasn't a whole lot of lame kills to choose from. So I had to go with Ryan's Special Ops team, how they all died, even though you saw the aftermath and that was cool. But I mean, they died in a cutaway scene. All the other deaths you pretty much saw. Joe's death, it was almost a cutaway scene, but I mean, you still got the scene with him sitting in the car with the werewolf behind him, and then you get the view of the car shaking around. Kind of gave Jurassic Park vibes. So I'm going to go with the Special Ops team for the Tumbleweed Award. Cutaways, no good. The final award I'm going to give out is the Best Crop Award, which is the best kill. Now, there's a lot of good kills to choose from in this movie, but I'm going to have to go with what was at first going to be the Tumbleweed winner, and then it morphed into the Best Crop winner, and that is Terry's death. Terry's death starts when the werewolves are ambushing the house. It's at the very end of the scene. They think the werewolves are gone. Terry turns around and gives some line of like, oh, some werewolves. And then one comes up and grabs him and drags him out the window. And at first I was like, oh, like everything so far has been so brutal. Like, they're just going to pull him out the window and just claim that he's dead. So cut to later in the movie, and they need to try to get out of the house. There's a car in the barn, and Joe sneaks out to the barn to hotwire the car, and when he does, the headlights turn on, and right in front of him is a werewolf holding Terry's body, just eating him alive. Like, it is a horrific scene. I think it's the scariest scene of the movie. Then the werewolf takes like another bite and then takes his head and throws the head on top of the hood of the car. Like, really brutal. So that has to be the Best Crop Award. That's got to be the best kill. Actually, after that scene, when Joe drives out of the barn, the actor who played Joe told the director that he didn't know how to drive, and he told him the day of the shoot. So Neil Marshall told him, well, you're going to give an attempt anyways, because this is too short notice. I don't know what else we're going to do. So they had the actor who played Joe try to take off driving towards the house, and he went off the road with the car. So they had to get a stuntman to do it. I really enjoyed watching the movie, and I'm glad I finally understand the hype now between dog soldiers and not battle dogs. So I finally got that sorted out. I would say this is easily a top 5 werewolf movie, maybe top 3. I mean, I think I'd put it above The Howling. Well, this concludes the horror harvest of Dog Soldiers. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed the new format of Horror Harvest. I think I'm going to keep doing these for a little bit. It's a nice, compact way of providing commentary for a film. Make sure you follow Field of Screams on social media and subscribe so you can always know when a new episode drops. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, and I'll catch you next time.